It's about that time, baby, baby. Oh, yeah. Here we go, here we go.
The Sinclair Show is on.
It is on.
Run it with your friends, come on.
Come on, come on.
It's a moment of the show tonight. Mailbag is tight. Sinclair is on the mic.
Once again, it's on. You're still troubled in your home. Got your tripping, don't know right from wrong. Send your letters to the show so we can talk you through. Get the answers to your questions because we speak that truth. Sometimes you doubt yourself, lost your health. Faith is on the fence, but you believe that Jesus knows your wealth. Keep it moving, spirit flowing, because we're here to provide someone to lean on when you're falling. Wednesday, 8 and 9, and it's on. Once again, it's on. You're listening to the only morning show when people at night. That's right. It is the Sinclair Show. First, I want to thank all of you all who continue to send your mailbag questions, comments, and all that other stuff to sinclairtalk@outlook.com. Y'all can tell I'm in here doing whatever it is tonight. I got some stuff on my screen. Rectify this problem. Okay, so we did something there. I don't know what we did, but again, I want to thank all of you all who continue to send your mailbag questions, comments to sinclairtalk@outlook.com. We're going to continue to address as many as possible each night we're on the air to reach you, because you all are the valued listeners. Now, what does that mean? That means without you all, I could be somewhere resting right now. But because I value you all, and you all like having these little chit chat with me in the evening times, that's why I'm here right now. We up here talking about whatever it is that we're talking about. All right. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about a couple of things. But before I get to that, I'll tell y'all something crazy. What up, Jay Dizzle? How you doing? How is your evening going? Yeah, that right there. Matter of fact, I did a different setup. So let me ask y'all a question. Jay, can you hear me out there? I ain't even got it on this. Detective Pamela Black, glad to see you. Everything is lovely, I hope. Glad that you on the show as always. So check this out, people. First, I want to have this little conversation. And this conversation stems from a conversation that I had earlier. And y'all ever be talking to a person, right? And that person, like, how can I say this? Because y'all know I be trying to protect the innocent people, right? But y'all ever talk to somebody that say that they got a particular skill set, if you will? Like, say hypothetically, you knew somebody that said they was in the, they made strawberries. Let's just say, you know how sometimes people make those little chocolate dipped strawberries, right? Well, let's say hypothetically, you spoke to somebody who said they was in the chocolate strawberry business, if you will. And when you saw they little strawberries, they strawberries was they had some that were perhaps looking professional quality. Then they had like some little hood strawberries. You know, the ones that look like they might have ran out of little chocolate or something. Let me ask you a question. Would you notify them that hey, you got a couple of little hood berries in there? I'm just saying. Just some of the things that go across my mind, because y'all know sometimes we'll see some things, and y'all out there in listening land, sometimes y'all be scared to tell a person the truth. All right. So I'm just letting y'all know that it crossed my mind that sometimes you just gotta let people know, hey, your strawberries are about 75% accurate. All right. And but that's just something that wildly came across my mind. Listen, tonight we got something serious to talk about. All right. But as always, y'all know I like to throw a few extra wrinkles in there. But the serious topic for tonight is about y'all, there go my mama. Hey mama. Mama down there listening, so I gotta be on my bestest behavior. Yeah. But tonight is actually a serious topic, and it's one that, quite honestly, I wish we didn't even have to have a conversation about. But as you all know, in the last um week or so, we have witnessed, if you turned on the news or anything, you would have known that there was a tragic um shooting slash murder in Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, of course, we always have, you could turn on the TV almost any given night and you would hear something about a somebody getting killed, some types of murder, but this was different. This was different for a lot of different reasons. One, um, it is alleged at this time that a 31-year-old Shamar Elkins, a father who allegedly shot and killed 7 of his own children and another child related to the family during a domestic dispute before dying after police confrontation. Now, part of the reason why we're talking about this is because there was some interviews that the news media did and a posting by someone who was alleged to be a friend, uncle figure, if you will, somebody that this gentleman was in the military with. And he described a situation where Mr. Elkins may have had some mental issues going on. Why is that important? Not because we seek to excuse the horrific actions of them, but to talk about the other side of it, a couple of different perspectives. So when the title was When the Home Becomes the Danger and the Tragedy of 8 Lost Children, a little bit of the background is that there was alleged to have been a breakup going on. All right. Meaning that they are saying that the Mr. Elkins and the mother of his children, who I don't quite remember if they were married. I think they were married going through a divorce. But if they were, people seem to have said that along the way, everybody noticed something. And that's the problem, is that along the way, we all notice things about situations like this, but we don't take no action. And the inactivity and the failure to recognize that somebody may be needing some mental or emotional support is part of this story as well. And I say that because those 8 young kids did not deserve to die. The wife whom he was divorcing, whom he actually shot, her and another adult female, did not deserve to be shot. And in fact, this young man who is a former military veteran did not deserve to be in that space without help, especially if immediately afterwards you've got people saying they knew that he was a little off. Now, some of y'all right now are in relationships with somebody that y'all got some of the same language. Oh, girl, he crazy as all outdoors. Some of y'all got family members, uncles, brothers, sisters, mamas, daddies, that everybody around y'all are or have said that this person just as crazy as they can be. And so the question becomes, if everybody sees that a person has some mental or emotional challenges, when is it our responsibility to step in, to take some initiative to do something about it? And that's part of what tonight's show is about, is the see something, say something, or lack thereof attitude. And again, I'm not saying that everybody, what's up, James Key? Glad to see you. I'm not saying that everybody is responsible for ensuring that all of the world's conflicts are resolved. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I am saying that there is a real responsibility that we have if we know that somebody is not acting as they should act. What would be the reason why we don't do anything to support that person? Now, some of y'all gonna say, oh, well, if you got somebody that's crazy, you don't want to be messing with them because they be wilding out. That can't be the answer. I'll tell you a true story. When I was very, very young, I can remember a cousin of mine whom, I'll say this as a matter of principle, every time I saw him, he was good people. Matter of fact, he was probably the type of cousin that most people would want. Was a little bit on the edge side, but was the type of cousin that would defend you, had your back. If you was somebody that was on his team, you was down with it. But he also, as many of you might say, he loved hard. He did a lot of different things. And one day, in a place where he was upset mentally and emotionally, while we may never know the full reason, he took his own life and had shot at the mother of his child. And I'm saying these things because I don't want you all to think that the story about 31-year-old Shamar Elkins is so far removed from your own families. Now, you all may not know somebody who has gone to those extremes, but most of you know somebody in your family trees who may be in jail right now because of domestic situations, who by most people's account have had some type of mental or emotional challenges along the way. And the question becomes, what did you do? What did I do? What did anybody do to help people who have, or we that you believe have some type of emotional or mental challenges along the way? What was done? How did anybody? The gentleman who made a post who said he was a uncle-like figure and had been around Mr. Elkins through his military time and things like that, his statements, if they were accurate, indicated that Mr. Elkins, after the chase, after he had shot the kids, had wound up at his house, at his doorstep. He said he opened the door, and upon opening the door, he had a brief 60-second conversation with Mr. Elkins, to at which point he turned the gun, put it in his mouth, and killed himself. Upon which time the police, who was also following, when they heard the gunshot, began to shoot as well. And so, again, getting to the space where we ask the real questions. What is the responsibility of those of us who witness behaviors along the way to either try to connect, try to get somebody some help, try to help somebody get away from somebody? Because the challenge with Mr. Elkins is no matter what the mental space that he existed in, there are now 8 children who are no longer with us because of his actions. But there's people talking about, oh, I knew he was crazy. And I know because I am in the counseling field. I know because I have friends who are professional counselors. Got a brother-in-law who is a professional counselor, psychologist. And I think that the challenge is we don't know all of the professional terms. So I'm not knocking it if you say, and it's no disrespect, if you are a mental health professional and you hear lay people using the phrase, the person was acting crazy, the person was crazy, it is no disrespect. It's what they call it in the streets. Sometimes we get so far removed from reality, or we get so far elevated that we become offended by the foolishness because it sounds that way to you or I, because now we've got some training. But the reality of it is, if you hear somebody on the street say, hey man, that dude was acting crazy, you know exactly what it means. And they don't mean him no disrespect. They're talking about his action. And so what do we do? What is our responsibility? How should we handle situations when there is someone whom you may care about, whether they're in your family circle or not, who has emotional or mental health challenges? What do you all think? If I was up here talking about something crazy, y'all be answering. But because we're talking about something serious, don't get quiet tonight. What do you think is the responsibility of friends and family members or otherwise when they know or reasonably believe that there is someone in their circle of influence who may be acting crazy from time to time? Because on April 19th, in a what is described as a devastating series of shootings that unfolded in multiple areas in Shreveport, police say that the violence happened across multiple homes, meaning whatever set him off. Keep in mind, we're not justifying it. He had absolutely no right to take anybody's life. But in dealing with the facts, whatever had him that upset, it was so much in his mind that he went to multiple locations to kill multiple people. And the people that he killed, 7 of the 8 were his own flesh and blood children. One was his nephew. And police say that the suspect fled the scene, carjacked the vehicle, led officers on a chase before dying during a confrontation with law enforcement. Investigators later have described the crime as entirely domestic in nature. So back to that question. If it's domestic in nature, somebody knew something about it. People had a sense that something wasn't right. And is it in fact part of the problem with the legal system is that our legal system, let me see what Jay Dizzle said. Johnny said it's not about being quiet. Most people are ill-equipped to assist or diffuse a person in an altered state. All right, Jay Dizzle, I might could give you some credit on that. And I'm less speaking about how he was on April the 19th than all the other days when somebody said they witnessed his actions and he acted like he was crazy and people said, oh, I knew it was something wrong with him. We're not talking about the day that he had the gun and went left. Was there any responsibility of anybody in his circle of concern to say something, whether it's to mental health professionals, law enforcement, somebody before April the 19th? That's the question. Because obviously, I would not expect any of you good valued listeners to go and try to intercede in a conflict where a person already has a weapon. Because many of you would probably freeze up if you've never been in any type of conflict situation. But let's talk about pre-19th, before murdering 7 of his own kids and his nephew, pre him shooting his wife or soon to be ex-wife. These are the points that I'm asking people tonight. Do you have a responsibility that when you see something, you say something? I'm curious as to if a person goes in multiple areas, nobody saw or heard it. I'm imagining, based on the description of it, that it wasn't a quiet scene at the first location. So I'm curious as to what should we do? We meaning you and I and anybody else who sees someone with what we believe to be mental health problems. And let me make something clear, because this is probably going to have some of you feeling some kind of way. Just because, all right, let me see what Jay Dizzle, the only one got an opinion. Yes, you should always say something if you see someone unraveling in real time. All right, Jay Dizzle, I'm good with you on that. But let me tell y'all the other thing. Every person who is participating in domestic violence is not crazy. Some people just mean and surly. And while most of the time when we hear about domestic violence situations, it is normally the male who is the aggressor, it's not always the male. And so one of the things that I want to speak with you all about from a counseling perspective is understanding your environment. What does that mean, Cindy Claire? It means this. If you understand that you are in a particular type of relationship, let's say the one like Mr. Elkins was in, determining when you depart a situation and where you depart that situation is important. Because in many cases, we find that it needs to be almost a planned out event in order for it to go well. And when I say well, I'm not talking about well emotionally, because anytime that there are domestic situations, it is never an easy thing mentally, because sometimes the very person that you care the most about is your abuser. What I'm talking about when I speak about planning and families being concerned enough to be active even when you've tried to tell them before. Because I can tell you one thing, and I can't speak to what happens in the Anglo-Saxon communities, but certainly in the Negro community, we get fed up and we say, I done talked to somebody 100 times. If they want to stay with them, if they went back with them, whatever. I'm talking about if you've never been in that situation, you couldn't possibly process that there is a challenge when you love somebody who happens to be violent, whether that person is a male or a female. It is a tough situation. And in this case, there were 7 children involved in there. So that makes it even more of a trying situation. Because all of us will sit back in hindsight and say, oh, if it would have been me, I would have did this. But where could this woman go who had 7 kids? How many of you who got all this wonderful advice is prepared to take a mother with 7 kids in? I'll wait. Because this is what we're talking about. A person who decides to leave but may not have any place to go doesn't have the same amount of options, because you or I, who may not be in that physical situation, can always sit back in the cut and say, I would have. But you would have what? You would have left and gone where? If your family or friends aren't prepared to support the transition, it can be devastating for a person trying to leave. It's devastating for a person trying to leave who don't have any kids. It's a difficult task for a person who has a job, no kids, in a domestic situation. It's still tough for them. Imagine if you are Miss Elkins, 7 kids, trying to get away from somebody that everybody said has some level of mental instability. Marcus Keith, what's going on, big dog? And so the question goes back to, what's our friends, family, Joe Public, what's our responsibility in assisting people, individuals who are in situations that we personally know? I ain't talking about, now listen, not that I'm marginalizing anything, but there is a sincere challenge and difference. Let me tell y'all some different scenarios. You're in a relationship with somebody. They crazy as all outdoors. You out here in the street doing whatever you want to do. They catch you up in some foolishness. They snap. You didn't deserve them snapping, but you're not the same as somebody that is just dealing with an individual with mental health challenges, who is aggressive, and you've not done anything. There's a difference between somebody that put themselves in foolishness and somebody who is just trying to live life and be the best male or female that they can and be supportive of their children, and they are in the house with a outright demon. And all of us that say we know somebody like that, what you willing to put on the line to get them out that situation? Because conversation ain't nothing. They don't really need you to tell them that they in the house with Joe Jackson. They don't really need you to give them your advice about you shouldn't have picked him or her. They need to know how many people in their support system is willing to step up and say, listen, here's the plan of action. You need to do X, Y, Z. Because many times when the abuser doesn't feel like you've got a support system that will hold him or her accountable, they are much more emboldened, if that makes sense. You got far fewer, and again, that's why I want to separate the two. I want to separate, while this particular story has prior military, at least from the public responses, people who say over an extended period of time, people believe that he had some type of mental challenges. And domestic violence. That's a broad combination for anybody to have to deal with. That is different because the mental health piece makes it even more severe. If you're just dealing with somebody that's evil, though the way you plan to leave is different. Marcus said that's when you make cuz disappear. Absolutely, I'm not disagreeing with it. Allegedly. Right. But when you're dealing with somebody who is just an evil person, you handle that different. But there are a lot of, and in this case, we'll speak about it from the female perspective. There's a lot of females that don't have a family member that's willing to stand up with them in the trenches against the evil dude. Sometimes it's because there's a level of embarrassment that comes with it. If you tack on kids, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in this case 7, then there's always the thought process. Sometimes a person is a negative, evil individual in the relationship, but they might not be that bad in terms of being a parental figure. So sometimes you got somebody who is abusive to the spouse, to the kids, and everybody. So there are different levels, and how we should approach it as support systems is different. You have to approach the individual with the mental health challenges much different than you do the person that's just evil. An individual, whether or not they're a soldier or a civilian, who has mental health challenges, you got to look at them and have some level of empathy, because known mental health challenges is not a person who may be acting out from an evil perspective. That's a person who may be acting out without any control mechanisms mentally to be able to deal with it. Latiana Matthews, what's going on, girl? Glad to see you. Who in the world is calling? Don't worry about it, people. I ain't going. And so I want you all to process that there are challenges that exist, and these challenges put us in a situation where we're having to defend what it is that we love and care about. And so, again, the difference between somebody who is outright evil and a person who has some level of mental challenges is that you've got to look at those mental and emotional challenges much different. But keeping in mind that everybody in these domestic situations, this gentleman who is Mr. Elkins is prior military, but people state that he was known to have mental health challenges. So what he did was horrific in nature, because those 8 children did not deserve to be murdered. However, as heinous as his acts were, the individuals who understood over a period of time that he had some mental health challenges, what was the step up process that they did? That's the question. The second part of that question becomes, is our system broke? And I mean that sincerely. Is the system broke when you have individuals who can't get the mental health medically? Marcus said it could have been PTSD. You're absolutely right. While I don't know that to be true, it would not surprise me if there was some indications down the road that the person had some mental health challenges. Did the system fail him? Did we know the system, whether it is legally, whether it is medically? We know that the system failed those 7 or 8 children and the mother of them, and I believe it was an aunt. We know the system failed them. Nobody was able to provide them the level of protection that they were entitled to. Okay? But the other piece is, did the system fail Mr. Elkins? And that I am curious to know how you all feel. Again, if Mr. Elkins was just an evil person that walked up and down the street and thought it was cool to put his hands on a woman, there's a different way we should be dealing with them. And you all have been on the show with me now for 8 or 9 years. I have been very, very specific in nature in terms of how I personally feel as a man about a dude that'll put his hands on a woman or some kids. So this isn't something where I'm expressing this today because of Mr. Elkins. I've long had that standard. I believe that there are some things that no matter where you are in your faith, that there are some things that if the circumstances put themselves to me, there are some things that I'm willing to be incarcerated for in protection of women and kids. And it's because what you are out here looking at are some people, not all, who have rage issues, who have entitlement issues. That group of people doesn't deserve the same consideration that we're talking about Mr. Elkins. Johnny said, yes, at times the prudent thing would be to cull the abnormal entity, or at the very least institutionalization. Absolutely. And let me ask this question. Are we collectively in a space where we are uncomfortable putting our loved ones in a mental support institution? Is that what the problem is? And I'm just asking because it's necessary to ask those types of questions. Is part of the issue that in the Negro community, that because everything, when you and I grew up in our homes, whether it's in small town America, whether it's deep in the country in Jackson, North Carolina, or in some small town in Georgia or Mississippi or any other place, everything that goes on in the house, you all heard the same things when you was growing up that I did. Whatever happens in this house, what happens with it? Y'all can finish the sentence. Whatever goes on in here, what? And it's because of that mentality that often people don't get the mental health that they need. Because parents are embarrassed. Because there it is. Y'all heard it. Marcus hit it right on the head. Whatever happened in this house, stay in this house. And it's that type of breeding of almost a prison-like mentality, not because the people who are going through it don't deserve help, but in many cases, it's because I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want somebody saying my child is crazy. I don't want somebody saying my husband is crazy. If your husband is in a space, if your wife is in a space, if your child is in a space where they are seeing and experiencing things that are, by most reasonable standards, not normal. I don't care if the reason is they went to war and came back, or they went to the military and came back, or they was in a gang, because everybody that got post-traumatic stress disease doesn't have to be a soldier. Okay? Marcus said most elderly black folks don't really believe in seeking mental health. You're absolutely right. And sometimes we get into the frame of mind where that's just how Leroy is. He just that type of dude. Really? That's the problem in our own communities. We can't protect our women, our kids. We can't even protect those individuals who automatically we've known for years was a little bit off somehow. I say, you know, Earl is crazy. Let it be known. Absolutely. You knew he was crazy. And ladies, listen, I'm not letting you all off the hook. Some of you all knew Earl was crazy, but Earl was cute. Earl was an all-star athlete with an attitude problem. You didn't care. You felt good when you was with Earl. That's Earl girl. You dating Earl knowing Earl is unstable. Now, if you didn't know, that's one thing. But stop thinking you can save somebody from a mental health issue like you got some kind of magic spell that only you got. As minorities, we need to stop thinking in silos and stop protecting our own ideologies and stop trying to protect what we believe is that little shattered reputation. Let me say this as a matter of principle. If you have a child that is dealing with mental health issues, everybody already knows it. Now, people may walk around and cover up for the crazy, but everybody already knows it. The sad part about, as I read the long drawn out details of Mr. Elkins and how he killed those 8 children, while people were surprised that he killed the children, they weren't surprised that he shot the girl. And that's because there were signs and symptoms and things about it in advance that nobody reached out in support. Well, let me rewind that. There is no indication that someone reached out and attempted to get him successfully some mental help. I'm talking about if you hear volumes of people saying, man, we knew he was a little off. That is not the same thing as the dude down the street that gets physical because he's just a mean person. Them two different translations that you get. And so I'm saying this because it is time for us to change the narrative in our own communities, because any individual whom is in an abusive situation deserves to be supported by family and community, because that is a horrific situation to be in a relationship, to be in a house, to be in a environment where every day you don't know what the fool in the next room might do. And we're better than that. We've got a president who will send 5,000 troops to hang out on the water outside of Iran for his own belief system. Shouldn't we be able to send a couple of people to get Errol and take Errol somewhere where he can be properly diagnosed, properly medicated? Shouldn't a country like ours be able to do that? I submit we should be able to. But I equally feel like if enough of you fathers and uncles and brothers and maybe sisters who know that you have loved ones in situations where they are in relationships where there is some violent or discord, you need to go around enough so that I ain't talking about the crazy one. I'm talking about the evil one. You need to go around enough so that dude understands. If you want to try one, that shouldn't be the one you try, because we'll come back here. You need, most dudes that'll fight a woman won't fight a man. And if they can isolate and take her away from her family, they will do that with the intent on emotionally terrorizing. Now, you got some women out here, y'all some terrorists too now. Let me say this, all right? Because I got to be fair to some dudes. There's some women out here every night choking their man out. And some of y'all laughing when I say that, but there are some women that are aggressive as all outdoors. He don't even know how to leave Tammy alone. You think he can get away? You know how hard it's got to be to get away from an aggressive Maybelline? Man, please. You can't get away from you can't get away from an aggressive Sharita. I'm just saying, you can't. There are women that if a dude try to get away, she'll cut his tires, take his license plate off. Hey, you ain't going nowhere. So domestic violence is not just isolated to men who attack women. It is more known that that is the scenario most often that takes place. But I do want you all to keep in mind that most of the time it occurs because there is not a valid support system that lets somebody know, if you put your hands on mine, we'll go to war about it. The average dude don't want no smoke with somebody's family. I'm just saying. The average dude that will put his hands on a woman is not going to put his hands on a woman that he knows that her daddy or her brothers or her uncles or their cousins will come to his house or to his job or wherever they got to go find. And ladies, I'm going to say this to you. You can't let embarrassment be the reason why you don't notify individuals who love and care about you. And I say this as a matter of principle. If you got a sister, a cousin, a auntie, a mama, or anybody that is in, man, let me tell you something. And I know what the old saying is. I don't want to get involved because she gonna go back to him, or I don't want to get involved because he gonna go back and find Sharita no matter how many times she scratches face up, whatever. Let me tell you something. Ladies, if your brother getting beat up by a woman and you go over there and you squirrel up on her and you show her you ain't gonna put your hands on my brother, you gonna have to deal with this. Let me tell you something. Before she get ready to beat up Travis, she gonna think about it because she got to see you. And fellas, before you let somebody put their hands on your mama, on your sister, on your cousin, on your auntie, if that dude know, if she come back over here with a bruise on her arm, if her nail is cracked and I find out that you had something to do with it, there ain't no place you can hide that I ain't gonna come and you gonna have to see me. They gonna think twice about it. But a person doesn't have to think twice when y'all are in the frame of mind that I'm just gonna mind my own business. You don't mind your own business no other time. Don't start when one of your family members is in duress. Marcus said that Stockholm syndrome is crazy. It is, but Marcus, let me. Marcus said, let any of my sisters tell me that I'm riding at dawn. Absolutely. And I want y'all to understand the difficulties. Sometimes people stay because they don't feel like they have anywhere else to go. And I'm amazed because some of you that won't open up your doors to them be the main ones talking about them. I don't know how he got himself into this. I don't know how she got herself into that. Let me tell you something. Every one of us has dealt with somebody crazy before. We have all had a little stalker in our life that it wasn't nothing but God's grace and blessings that we was able to escape them. I'm just being honest. I done had a stalker before. I'm keeping it a stat. I thought it was cute at first. Turned out not to be so cute. You got to start looking out your window. You got to start doing all kind of stuff. So I'm saying, don't act like these things aren't real. And don't act like you so far removed, because all of you have been in either a physically or mentally abusive relationship. Just because nobody was choking on you or hitting on you or punching on you or doing evil things doesn't mean you ain't been through something. And so I'm saying this to you tonight because the mother of 7 of those children who were murdered has today a bullet that is still lodged in her face because the doctors have said it's a risky surgery. Because Mr. Elkins, a former veteran, is gone. Because 8 children are gone. Because a auntie or friend of the family was shot and struggling with the things that come with that. Because an entire town, an entire city is dealing with the ramification of a mental health crisis that wasn't resolved, which led to a series of events. And so I'm imploring you all to consider what's important in your space. Consider what's important in your lives and ask yourself over and over and over again, am I missing some signs? Am I being effective? Am I standing in support of somebody who has a real issue? And if the answer to that question is no, or even if you feel ill-equipped, as Johnny said earlier, see something, say something, so that somebody can do something. We're going to keep them in our prayers, and I'm going to talk to y'all next week. It's time for me to go so I can get me a little rest, and I'm out.
It's about that time.